Hey, John here. So one of the most important things when it comes to learning this thing is to be able to practice efficiently. And to help you with that, I've put together a compilation of videos from a course that I used to sell called Guitar Technique Toolbox. So this video will go through 10 practice techniques that I find essential and I still use to this day. And I've not come up with any of these techniques. I've learned them throughout my years of practicing and basically discarding everything that didn't work and then kept the best ones. If you want the accompanying PDF file, which is 15 pages where I break all these techniques down in text format, you can get that over at my Patreon. You have a link down in the description. Every technique is covered in full in the video, but it's good to have the PDF for an overview so you can quickly remind yourself when you sit down to practice. So if you can get through the umming and ahhing, I wasn't used to speaking on camera and there's basically no editing in these videos. You'll get a lot out of it because these are still the practice techniques that I use on a daily basis, and they've helped me so much, and not to mention hundreds of students throughout the years as well. So with that said, let's get going. Okay, so planting. We have planting and we have rhythmic planting. So the first one, actually both. I got both of these techniques from studying flamenco guitar, and this is really common in classical as well. So fingerstyle guitar basically, and that is to plant your fingers before playing, especially with the right hand. So when working on arpeggio patterns and scales with 2 or more fingers, they would use this technique to minimize the movement and have control over the technique. And it works just as well on electric guitar or pick style guitar. And the first technique, like I said, I just called planting. And if this is the string and a string, the basic technique is to you plant on, you see I'm planting with a downstroke here. So you plant on the string and then you push through and the string sounds, and then immediately after you plant on the other side. So you're basically preparing the upstroke, and then you play the upstroke and then you plant on the other side. And you want to minimize, you see the motion here in between. You don't want to do this. You want to get that movement as small as possible. So ideally you wouldn't even leave the string. You would sort of almost hug the string. So a way to monitor this is to listen to how short the notes are. So the shorter the notes when playing, the better your planting and the more efficient your right hand technique is. So if we do this on just an open G string here, and before I play, keep in mind that acronym in the introduction video, RAT, relaxed, accurate, and tone. And again, like I said in that video, the tone is totally your preference. It's very subjective on what a good tone is. But whatever you consider a good tone, try to keep the same angle on the pick while doing this, as well as any of the other tools we're going to look at. So so you don't want to change anything when since we're programming our technique to work for us when we're just playing musically, and you know, you don't want to have to think about this, but for that to happen you have to program it correctly. So think about that, RAT. Okay, so open G string again and planting the first version. So if I slow that down even more, because regardless of how slow you play here, the notes should be as short as possible anyway. So and as you can hear, it's kind of hard to really hear if you have your ideal tone, but try to get as close as possible anyway. And definitely stay away from doing something like that, which can be easy to do because you tend to want to dig in when you practice like this. So if we apply this to just a 1, 2, 3, 4 chromatic pattern on the 9th fret on the G string, it would sound like this. Okay, so as you can hear, doesn't sound very good when you do it like this, but remember that this is to get your right hand to be as efficient as possible, sort of like the ideal state for the right hand when it comes to movement. And you won't have this ideal state when playing, but you will, by practicing like this, you will come closer to it at least. And don't worry about the notes being cut short here, because this is not something that you will not sound like this. I mean, maybe if you practice like this exclusively, you would sound like this, but just using this as a tool, it won't affect your playing more than it will affect your right hand efficiency. And also, when playing really fast, the notes won't be longer than that anyway. It's just that there are more notes per minute or per second than what we have here, so it's more noticeable here. Okay, so that's the first planting technique, and the second one is called rhythmic planting, and that's the one I use most because I feel it's a bit better for I feel it synchronizes the hands more, and it's also is sort of like a foolproof way of practicing something new, because you're preparing everything before you play it, so you can't really make a mistake unless someone pushes you while you're practicing. So if we take the same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, what you want to do here is to practice to sound some sort of rhythmic source, your foot, a metronome, drum machine, whatever. And on each downbeat, you'll play whatever note you're about to play. And on each upbeat, you'll plant and prepare both hands. So you prepare the left hand, you finger the right note, and you prepare the right hand by preparing either the downstroke or the upstroke, or maybe a finger if it's hybrid picking. So, but 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So I'll just play it through a few times. You can see what I'm talking about. So. Okay, and as you saw here, the right hand isn't, it won't be as efficient as the other one. but it's still better than not focusing on it. And like I said, this is so useful for when learning something new and you want to really get a good first impression of whatever you're learning, because you can't really make a mistake when everything is prepared like this. Okay, and the rhythmic part of the name is because you do it in 8 notes. So it's like, if I exaggerate the planting, you'll hear that on the upbeat, you'll hear the pick planting like this. And also you hear the note cut off as well. So that's the 2 techniques for planting. And the first one is really good for really minimizing the picking, but the reason why I don't use it as much as the other one is because it's when you play something like this and your right hand is ahead of the left hand, because the right hand is planting as soon as you play a note, you're already preparing the next. And so if I play something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll have a downstroke, and then it's planted, and this finger is just waiting, and then we're together again. But now the right hand is 1 step ahead again. So I don't think that matters in the long run, but it's for me, I tend to use the rhythmic planting one more, because I feel I get a chance to plant both hands in sort of, it's more synchronized, I feel. But try them both, and you know, it's both are worth exploring anyway. So, and in the instance where I use the first planting technique the most is where I identify a right hand problem and I want to work on only the right hand. So let's say I play some 2-note per string thing like this, and let's say I have a problem with that with the right hand, and I analyze it, and it's like, okay, it's 2 notes here, down up, and then down up on this string. Okay, and then I want to make my right hand more efficient, so then I might just hold a 5th like this. Okay. And another thing here that's important is that when you're changing strings with the first planting technique, you have to dampen the string with the right hand or the left hand, or a combination. So if you play like something like that, here it's fine, but this note, since I'm going to the next string here, I won't do the string hugging, so to speak, because I'm not going to be here. I'm not, because here I'm prepared for a downstroke on this string, but I'm going to have a downstroke on this string. So, but I still want to go as fast as possible to the next note. So what happens here is I have to dampen the string with the left and the right hand. So I try to keep the notes as short as possible here as well. So I try to keep them uniform with the other ones. If you just listen to this and not see me changing strings, I don't want that string change to be really noticeable. So, and this really works on your right hand muting as well. So it's sort of a bonus feature of the first planting technique. And yeah, so that's basically it for planting. Okay, so it's time for tool number 2, and it's called Slow and Quick. And what the title refers to is slow is the actual number of notes per minute that you're playing or practicing. So you want to keep the tempo slow, and by slow I mean really slow, quarter notes at around 50 to 70 or 80 BPM. And the quick part is the actual movement between each note. So what a lot of people do when they slow down to practice something, they slow everything down, so it's sort of almost like slow motion. And if we take this chromatic thing we did in the last video, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the G string, and if we do it the wrong way, so to speak, where we slow everything down, sort of get something like that. But what you want to do is to keep the tempo the same, but get a more of a snap in each movement. So more like this. Slow down, and this really helps with your synchronization, and your tone improves as well. And I've done this so much that it's a habit of mine to, whenever I play something slowly, I tend to have these quick movements. And actually why the tone improves is because when you hit the string, see if I can get an angle here. When you hit the string, the faster you leave the string, since you're not going through the string, you're gliding over it like this, the less time you spend on the string, the clearer your tone gets. At least that's my theory, why it sounds better. So you get a better sustain feel. So, and it's not about playing really strongly. It's about just passing through the string quickly, and also in the left hand as well, that you have quick movements, and this really helps with legato as well. So so just get into the habit of whenever you slow something down to practice it, make sure that your movements are as quick as possible. Because ideally it will feel the same when you're playing faster, because the only thing that should speed up is the amount of notes you play per minute or per second. So, and again, make sure that you tick all three of those boxes of being relaxed, accurate, and have the tone that you want. So, if I could only pick one of these tools, now I don't have to pick, but if I only had to pick one, I probably use this one, because this has served me so well when I started learning, and when I found out about this tip, it's changed my playing. So it's a really good habit to develop, and it has solved a lot of technical problems for me, at least. So try it out, and see you in the next video. Okay, so tool number 3 is dotted rhythms. And if you can read music, you probably already know what that looks like, but you don't have to be able to read music to use this tool. So basically what it is you have two notes, and the first note is held longer than the second note. So another way to look at it would be if we take this trusty old pattern we've been using, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the G string, we would play the first dotted rhythm variation like this, long, short. So it's like long, short, long, short, long. So as you can hear, it's like an exaggerated swing rhythm. So you want to, if you play this to a metronome, we'll use my foot here. Hit the note on the beat, and then you wait as long as you can until you hit the next note, which will be short. So long, short, long. So okay, and why this helps is that you get a feel for how the passage you're working on will sort of feel up to speed, because you're playing every other note at or close to the tempo you're going to that you want to reach for the pattern you're working on. So and it's really important here that you find a tempo where the fastest tempo you can play, but still follow that relaxed, accurate, and with the tone. So this won't help you at all if you like do something like that. You want to play, make sure that all the notes are there and that it feels good. And so in any given passage, if you can play it like this, you know that you can play at least 50% of the notes quickly, but that leaves the other 50%, and what to do here is to simply reverse the pattern. So instead of playing long, short, we'll play short, long. So we'll play and this technique is this dotted rhythm thing is something I learned from classical and flamenco as well. It's really, and classical musicians in general seem to favor this way of practicing. And it's really good if you have a longer section of music that you want to get up to speed and get a feel for. It's a great tool to use. So if we take something like this Bach double, it's originally in B minor, but I play it in E minor here, so you can fit it all in on the screen. So I won't play the whole thing, I'll just play the first phrase. So and you have the notation in the PDF package as well. So, and it's in triplets and something like this. There's a lot of string crossing and stuff like that. So I use alternate picking here. But if I would use the long short version of practicing, it would sound like this. And the short long. And the short long, at least for me, it feels a bit. It's more difficult actually, but I think it's a more natural rhythm to play long short. But it's you need both for this technique, and both work great for the purpose. So, and again, the idea here is to get a feel for a passage of music and how it will sort of feel up to tempo, while still maintaining that relaxed, accurate, and the tone that you want. So that's dotted rhythms. Okay, time for tool number 4, which is accents. Accents is a great tool to use to better synchronize your hands, because the basic idea is that we'll hit a specific note or notes that we're practicing a bit harder with both the right hand and the left hand, so they're really connecting at that point. And another thing that it helps is that your brain sort of gets a focus point. So sometimes while practicing something, it can be easy to sort of lose focus on some of the notes, you know, right in the middle, that you might not even be you might not even notice that you hit some notes a bit sloppy. So accents is a great way to make sure that every note that you're practicing is on point when it comes to the clean technique. So and the way I use accents is 2 ways. One is a more rhythmical way and one is more phrase based. And the rhythmical way is based on subdivisions. So and if you don't know what subdivisions is, basically it's how many notes you divide each beat or quarter note usually. So quarter notes would be 1 note per beat, 8 notes would be 2 notes per beat, 8 note triplets would be 3 notes per beat, just like this thing that we saw in the previous video. And 16th notes is 4 notes per beat, and so on. So let's just take 16th notes as an example here. So that's 4 notes per beat. So what I do is I take this sort of systematic approach. So I will play through the phrase. I will just show it on a muted string here, so you get what I mean. So and the phrase we're going to use is just a G major scale, and you find that notated in the PDF as well. So it's G up to A here, so we get the complete bar of 16th notes. And I'm gonna play through this phrase and accent each 16th note at a time, and then and this is by per beat basis. So I will accent first every 1. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1. And I'm exaggerating a bit here when it comes to the accents. Well, we'll talk about that later. And then once that's done and it works, I'll go to the second subdivision. So I'm going to accent every second 16th note. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1. And then the third, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1. And the fourth, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1. And if you haven't tried this yet, you'll probably find that accenting the second and fourth note of each 16th can be tricky, especially when you try to do it to a metronome. It can be easy to sort of let the accent slip to the nearest beat, but this is part of why this way of practicing is so good, because it really helps you develop your rhythmic feel as well, and really work on your timing. And timing is super important for everything in music, but since this is more technique based, from that point of view it's also very important, because the only thing that synchronizes our hands have to meet somewhere, and that's where the beat is. So I usually try to show students sort of a pyramid or triangle, where the rhythm is at the top, and then we have the left and right hand at the bottom and they meet at the top. So rhythm is super important. So, but you'll probably find that if you're not used to this, it will help you with your timing as well if you work on it. And you have to slow down when you do this. You can't really, especially if there's some really fast phrase you're working on, you know, like 16th notes at, I don't know, 180 or something like that. It will be pretty much impossible to be able to accent, you know, the second 16th note at those kinds of tempos, but that's not the point there. The point is to gain control at a slower tempo, and that will help you at a higher tempo. So don't worry about how fast you're practicing this. You want to get it down to a tempo where you feel in control. And that goes with a lot of these tools, because they sort of force you to slow down to even be able to execute them properly. So that's a good thing for us guitar players. Okay, so and again, if we would do this with triplets, I can just show you quickly here with the Bach thing. Then you would accent first each one, so you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Then the second triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And the third triplet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, so and the same thing goes if you have a grouping of 6 notes or 5 notes or 7 or whatever. You just take each note in turn for each beat and accent that. And also I highly recommend actually counting the notes like I did here, so you until you're sure that you're hitting the right note. After a while you will just feel, let's say I want to accent the third note of each grouping here, so then after a while you start to feel these subdivisions and you don't have to count anymore. But until you're totally sure, I would keep on counting, because it's a good thing to do anyway. Okay, so that's the first way. The second way I use where it's more of a shorter thing that I'm working on. Maybe, let's say I'm working on this, just the first 2 beats of the Bach thing, and let's say I find that really difficult and I want to use the accents to synchronize the hands. I can use instead of going through 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, I can just choose to go through each note of the phrase individually. So I would have accent the first note of the phrase, second note, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the final note. So that's a good thing for shorter phrases. And again, just make sure that you think about that RAT, relaxed, accurate, and tone. So I'm like exaggerating a bit here with the accents. So try to keep it in a way that you find musical, and also try to accent with the left hand as well. So, and of course you can do this with legato and sweeping and whatever. So, but even when just playing something picked like this, make sure that the accents is felt in the left hand as well, even if it's more of a mental thing. You don't want to push it down too hard, but just a little bit, so you get that connection between the two hands. And if you have any problems with this, just slow it down a lot, because I want to emphasize that, because this is a super useful technique, because it not only helps your technique, but it also helps your timing, so it's a very important one. So that's it for accents. Okay, so tool number 5, dynamics. Dynamics is really, when it comes down to it, how soft or loud you play something. So going from, if I just play the E here on the G string, I can go from barely audible, very muted, to very loud. So you want to apply this to whatever you're practicing, basically, because it really adds more musical touch to whatever you're playing, and it's good to get rid of that too robotic feel when you practice scales or arpeggios or whatever. And also it makes it a bit more fun to practice, because you can sort of improvise with the dynamics. But a few ways to use this would be to, for example, let's take the G major scale we played here before, and just go up and down that scale, and start out at as softly as you can. And I recommend trying this with a clean sound, because it's easier to get a more full spectrum of dynamics that way on guitar, because an acoustic guitar is even better to try it on, but because the distortion just tends to compress the sound. So and you have to really work with a lot of muting with distortion to get the dynamics. But that's also a technique you should work on. So try it on whatever sound you like using. But if you have an acoustic lying around, it's a great way to practice on that. So anyway, we got that scale again, and just start as softly as you can, and muted. So super soft, and then gradually get louder, not faster, but louder. And only go as loud as you still find it musical. So that's basically the idea. So just improvise and trying to get that control with the right hand to and just improvise with it, and then have some fun with it. And this works on basically anything, but it's really good for if you're sitting around and repeating some pattern that you find hard, and just to keep your focus, you can at least improvise with the dynamics. And try to, even when you play louder like this, try to keep that relaxation in mind. You can also set up different sort of challenges for yourself as well. So maybe start really softly, and then when you get on up to the top of the scale, you go loud, and then you go soft down. So you start soft, and then loud, and then soft. So like this. So almost like a wave, you know. And you can of course reverse that. You start loud, and the longer phrase you have, the more space you have to make that wave smooth. So try it out on different things. And like I said before, it's sort of it makes everything sound more musical. So when you're learning something, pay attention to the dynamics. Try to develop an ear for this type of stuff. So you try to listen for, okay, is this note open or is it muted, and is it soft or is it loud, or and really incorporate that when you work on a solo or a piece of, you know, a classical piece or whatever. Because I don't think it's a great idea to learn a piece more like so it sounds almost like a MIDI rendition of it, where without any accents or dynamics. So especially if you're trying to learn some classical pieces, if you listen to different players, that's a lot of things what's makes different players sound different, because they use dynamics differently, and also rhythmic phrasing and all that stuff. But dynamics is a big part of it. So try to practice it yourself, and also be more sensitive to it when you learn other stuff. Okay, so tool number 6, looping. This can be used on any phrase that can be repeated in a loop. In other words, something like this. You can just play this over and over. So this is 16th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, and what you can do with this is that since it's a loop and it just goes around and around, you can start at any point in the loop and let that be the starting note. So if we have these 4 notes, I mean, we got 3 notes, but the loop has 4 notes before it goes back to the beginning again. So the first thing to do is to number the notes of the loop. And this is pretty easy because it just goes up and then down again. So it's pretty easy to keep that in your memory, compared to if you have something like that. It might be a bit more tricky. But anyway, so we got these 4 notes, and the first thing we do is that we number them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the first variation, or the original variation, is just starting on the first note and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and a slight accent on the 1, and the 1 will always be on the downbeat, the 1 of the loop, that is. So you will always start the loop wherever you start the loop, whichever loop variation you're working on, it will always start on the beat. So so that's the first one, and you slightly accent that with both hands, like we talked about in the accent video. And then you move on to the next note in the loop. So this is the second note. Now you want to go from the second note around to the second note again. So you go 2, 3, 4, 1, and then back to 2 again. Okay? And if you look at the original loop here, it started with a downstroke, so you want to keep that picking stroke intact. So in this case, you will start this on an upstroke, and still slightly accenting, but you start on the beat here, so it's okay. And then we go on to the next note in the loop. This the third note, and we go 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and this one starts on a downstroke. So and the last one starts on an upstroke, and we go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you just listen to the sound of these when when I play them. And remember that since it's a loop, it's essentially the same notes repeating over and over again. But since we're starting on a different note, and we're always starting on the beat, so the beat gets sort of turned around, so each variation sounds different as well, and feels different, even though technically it's the same strokes and fingers playing the same thing. So it's kind of weird, but yeah, just listen to this. So the first variation. So that's basically how I would practice it. If I usually use this when I find something in a piece of music that I have a hard time playing. And let's say this is it, and I want to practice that extra and get some more good repetitions in, but I don't want to just play this one and you know, try to overdo that. It's better to spread it out a bit, and since I'm basically working the same movements, but it's different for your mind, and you learn it better this way. So, and also the accents gets turned around, and you get the accent with an upstroke, and all that kind of stuff adds up to the variations being more difficult to play actually. And the idea is to get every variation up to a decent tempo, not to equalize them so that each variation is as fast as every other one, because there's always going to be some patterns that are easier to play when it comes to this. So, and that depends on what you have practiced before and things like that. So, but the goal here is not to get every variation up to the same tempo, but to get every variation up to at least a decent flow, you know, and that you can play it without making mistakes. Maybe like and actually that would be enough, even though if the original would be, that doesn't really matter, because when you try this for the first time, you're probably going to find that some patterns are really hard to even just get through, and that's the thing, you know, that it sort of helps you see what you're working on from a different angle. And even though it should be as easy as the first one, it isn't. But if you can even it out a bit, it will really help the original pattern a lot, and your whole technique actually. So let's just apply this to another pattern. So let's take a 6-note pattern. So we have, so we got 7, 9, 7, 9, 10 on the D string, and 7, 9, 10 on the G string. And this will be a 6-note pattern. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 6 variations in this case. So we'll start on the first one. So start on the second one, and I start on an upstroke. Next one on a downstroke. Next one on an upstroke. Next one on a downstroke. And the final one on an upstroke. So this is basically the way I use looping, and try it on something you have problems with, and I can almost guarantee that you'll find that one of these loop variations will be much harder than another one, and then you know what you need to practice more to get them up, get the other one up to speed. And this works on everything, so you can do legato patterns, sweeping, whatever. So it's the only thing you have to keep in mind when you play something not as straightforward as alternate picking. Let's say you have a sweeping pattern here. You got an A triad. See the same D shape here, and just the 12th fret here, E. So we got E, C sharp, A, E. And the picking here, at least how I play it, is an upstroke, pull off, upstroke, and then down, down, down where the sweep is. So it's 6 notes before it repeats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you want to loop this, the first loop is no problem, but the second one will actually start on a pull off. And in this case, I usually start on whatever pick stroke I find the most logical, because once I get back to this in the loop, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, then the loop will start with a pull off. And this is great because it's really easy to sort of do the pull off too fast or too slow and things like that. So this technique really brings out any timing and synchronization problems you might have. Then you just go through the phrase note by note like this. And if you get confused on what pick stroke you should start with, or if it's a pull off or whatever, you just play the phrase from the beginning and see, okay, now we're on the third note, and let's see, so we got up, pull off, up. Okay, I want to start this on an upstroke, so up, down, 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 up, pull off, up. And keep going like that. So we got down, down again, and finally down again. So that's really the only thing you have to keep in mind when doing this, that when it involves pull-offs and stuff like that, you have to make sure that you use the correct pick stroke or technique, because otherwise you're just practicing something else and it won't help you that much. Okay, so we're up to tool number 7, speed bursts. And this tool is better saved for the time when you have practiced the phrase for a while and used other tools, and you're kind of used to it, and you can play it accurately at slower tempos or medium tempos, but you want to get the speed up. And it's really tempting to rush to this tool, but you really shouldn't, because you have to lay some groundwork first, I feel, for this to work. So, and basically what it is you take whatever phrase you're working on, and we can just use, let's see, we can play this from the B minor, well, B blues scale, with the natural 6th here and the 9th, so it's sort of a mix between a blues scale and the Dorian scale. So, whoops, and it's a super convenient pattern here, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. So it's very easy to remember, and it's just part of the standard blues box here that probably most players in the world learn in the first few months of playing. So, like so. And let's say we want to play this pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, and I chose this short phrase because it's kind of boring for you to sit there and watch me go through a super long phrase. So what you want to do here is to start with just the first 2 notes, and there's 2 variations of this speed burst. You either have beginning to end, which we will start with, and then we have end to the beginning. So, and that will all make sense soon if it doesn't right now. So beginning to end, we'll start with the first note, going to the second note, and you want to play that as fast as you can while still adhering to the acronym I've been talking about. You know, RAT, relaxed, accurate, and tone. So you don't want to play it faster than you can check all three of those boxes. So as you can see here, I plant before I play. And this is really important when you practice the speed bursts, I noticed. And because it's easy to get into something like this, and that can defeat the purpose in the long run, because it's really easy to stop listening to what you're doing, so your tone might be off, or you start tensing up. And so if you have problems with this, you can try this out. Actually say this to yourself out loud. Plant, relax, play. And then you play. Plant, relax, play. And after you've done this for a while, you can probably just start, you will start relaxing as soon as you plant. So for me, as soon as I have time to plant on the string, I know that I'm not rushing anything. Okay, so just the first two notes feels okay. Then we'll try to add the third note. Okay, that felt okay. Then we add the fourth. And it can, it's a good idea to sort of prepare yourself to what you want to play, so you don't just add a note and go for it straight away. Try to, so you know what you're going for here. Okay, and if at any point you find that, oh, this is a bit sloppy, then okay, slow down. So the speed burst is about getting the speed up for the whole phrase eventually, but getting the speed up from where you are right now. So as long as you're faster than when you're practicing the whole phrase, that's enough, because that will build the more you practice with all other tools as well. So don't feel that you have to be at a, you know, some supersonic speed if your technique can't handle it. So that's just pointless. So okay, and then we add the next note. And another thing, I usually just practice this without a metronome. I want to have an even tempo, but the tempo will shift so much depending on how many notes you play, because playing two notes is easier than playing three notes, and so your playing will probably slow down the more notes you add, because if you already could play this up to tempo cleanly, you wouldn't be practicing it anyway. So that's just the way it is. Okay, so okay, next note. And if you find yourself having problems and getting sloppy or something like that, besides slowing the tempo down, you can try some of the other practice tools with this. So that's sort of the point with these tools. You know, you don't have to use each tool in separation. You should mix them up and see what works well together, depending on the phrase and so. That's totally up to you. So what I usually do is, if I find something sloppy here, I will slow down and try the slow and quick method. just to get my synchronization going. And it's actually hard when you've been doing this sort of caffeine inspired practicing. It can actually feel that if you notice that my slow playing wasn't that slow, you know, I really should slow it down even more. And try it again. And another thing you can do is if you find that this note, for example, isn't coming out the way you want it, try to maybe use the accents tool. So you do and just try them all out on in conjunction with each other, and not just with the speed burst ones. Just try mixing them up while practicing. So that's the point of it. Anyway, so let's say this feels cool. Then we add the next note. And again, do it quite slow at first so that you know where you're going, and then you try it a bit faster. Oh, that didn't work well, so slow it down. Okay, and then we add the next note. Okay, and the last note. And again, anything feels sloppy, just slow it down and build it up. And again, if you feel that, okay, by adding the last note here, I had problems, then you can back it up and just go up to the note before that. So it's you can go back and forth between these, so it's not like you have to keep going. And so that's the beginning to the end way of practicing it. And the end to the beginning, you can probably guess that you start on the last note, well actually the second to the last note, and you play. And then in this case you have to really make sure that you start on the correct pick stroke. So then the phrase ends on a downstroke, so the note before it would be an upstroke. And again, I'm planting before. Okay, and the note before, a downstroke. So it can be a bit trickier to go from the end to the beginning, because you have to keep those pick strokes in mind, because they will change. Because the last note will always be the same in this one, but when in the beginning to the end one, you always started at the same place. So whatever pick stroke that was, that's the pick stroke you will start on each time. So anyway, so down, up, down here, and then up. And the point of doing this, you might think like, well, I can play it from the beginning and to the end, why would I want to try it from the other way? And that's because you'll encounter some kind of weird patterns here. Like this one, where you have an upstroke here and down, 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 up, down. And it can get really weird when you get into shifting positions and stuff like that. But even here, it's probably not the most common way to start a phrase. So, but that's part of the phrase. So that might explain some of the technical problems you might have with the phrase. So, and that's the point of this exercise as well, to really uncover problem areas. And from this you can build separate exercises. So I will show you how to do that as well. So, but anyway, we had a note before that, and again, make sure that you start on the right pick stroke. So I started on up here, so it will be down, down, up, down, up, down. And I know I'm right here because I'm ending on the correct pick stroke. And just keep going like this. So down here, up here. Again, if you have problems, slow it down and try some of the other tools to solve the problem. Down here. Up. And down. Okay? So that's the basic idea of speed bursts, and this works for any type of phrase, legato, sweep picking as well. So, and that goes with all of these tools. So you have to get creative sometimes with them, but that's just that's a good thing. So try all these tools out and make them your own. So, but anyway, if you just look quickly at the sweeping pattern. So since we were in B minor here, we can keep going in B minor. So we'll have this. So that's 14, 10, 12, 11, 12, 14, 9. So that's the notes. And picking wise, we have up, pull off, up, 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 down, hammer on, down, 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 down. So, okay, so the same thing applies. You start here at the beginning. So that's easy enough, and then the next note. And again here, I know that I'm starting on an upstroke, so I planned that before. And oops. Okay, and then you start from the end, and that would be, since the phrase is, so I would start on downstroke here and going to the upstroke, like so, and then add this note. And here's, you have to, this would be a hammer-on really when you play the full phrase, but in this case you have to start with a downstroke. And now you'll get the legato in here. So and if you get confused, just play the phrase from the beginning. So okay, so it would be coming from a upstroke, downstroke. for that. And a lot of these patterns are pretty awkward, so, but that's good. And let's see. So that's the way to do it with the sweeping, and you add some legato here as well. So it works for pretty much anything. So, but again, if you have some long sort of perpetual motion classical piece, or just a long solo section a la Dream Theater, you probably wouldn't use this speed burst technique from the beginning to the end for too long a section. I would say, well, this goes with all these practice tools. Well, actually, most of them, at least, that you use them on the problem areas, and so save it for the hardest part of the piece you're working on, because it can be quite time consuming to do this as well. So, but that's speed bursts, and again, slow it down if you make mistakes, and you saw me make mistakes here as well, so yeah, I have to remind myself all the time when using this technique that, you know, it's okay to slow down and really focus on what you're doing. But if you do that, this is a great technique to sort of break mental barriers you might have about playing faster, but doing so in a more controlled way. So hope this helps, and see you in the next video. Okay, so tool number 8, beat to beat, and this is more like a diagnostics tool for me. What I mean by that is I use this to find out where the problem really lies with a phrase. So, and it's very systematic, and it's also in a way similar to speed bursts, but it's also a good companion to the speed burst. But I just show you with this Bach example again. So what you want to do is you can think about the formula x plus 1, and x in this case is the subdivision that the phrase uses. So if it's 8-note triplets, then it would be 3 plus 1, and that's because you want to connect from beat to beat. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So you start on the beat and you end on the next beat. And if it would be 16th notes, it would be x would be 4 instead, so 4 plus 1. Let's just play that major scale again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, and the difference here with this one and the speed burst is that it's a fixed length depending on the subdivision, whereas the speed burst we kept getting longer and longer phrases. And also another difference is that we will be starting on each note of whatever pattern we're working on, and that will reveal some pretty awkward fingerings. That's just like in the speed burst when we went from the end to the beginning. You saw some kind of weird fingerings because we started in the middle of the phrase, and this is sort of the same deal. So, but I'll just explain it on this example, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So you start by choosing what you're going to practice, and we have this Bach thing that we're going to practice, the first phrase, And again, you want to pick up not too long of an example, because it's kind of time consuming to do this. But also, once you've done this to a section, you'll know exactly where to spend your time, and that's super important. So we'll start with the first beat to beat, which would be 1, 2, 3, 1. So down, up, down, up. And what you want to do is to set you want to use a metronome when you do this. Now I will just have my foot here, but and set the tempo to about 80% of the final tempo. So that's good starting point for this, because similar to the speed burst, we're not playing more than one beat at the most. So in this case, it's 4 notes at a time. So you can, even if you're nowhere near 80% of the tempo for the whole phrase, you should be able to get these short fragments up to that tempo. And those that you can't do that with, you know that you need to work extra on that, because there is something technical that's not working for you. So that's what I mean by diagnostic tool. So we have the first phrase, and again, just put on the metronome. And plan before you start, and think about rat, relaxed, accurate, and the tone. Okay, so if that feels cool, just play it a few times, and if it works, keep going. And now when you keep going, we won't start where we stopped, which would be kind of logical, right? But we want to find all these, go through all these nooks and crannies of the licks, so we can find the real problem areas. So we'll start on, it's kind of easy to remember, because we will start on each note of the phrase. So first we started with the first note, now we'll start with the second note. And like before, be very careful to start with the right pick stroke when you do this. Okay, so now we'll start with an upstroke, and we'll go 3 plus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1. So it will be up, down, up, down. Okay, and again, we always start on the beat and end on the beat. So this is not where it would fall rhythmically when we play the real example, but we're not concerned with that right now. No, it's purely a technical thing to find the problems. So let's say that works fine. We move on, so we take the next note in the pattern. And as always, if you get confused, start from the beginning, so you make sure that you have the right finger and the right pick stroke. And then you count 3 notes, plus 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. So play that. Okay, so let's say that worked great. Let's move on. The next note. So upstroke, down, up, down. So 3 plus 1. And let's say that this is hard to play. Let's say you have to struggle to play this pattern. That's great, because then you know that, okay, here's one of the weaknesses that I have. One of the things that stops me from playing this at the desired tempo. So that's a good thing, because it won't do you much good to practice the parts that you already can play, because when you're practicing, you sort of want to have that big picture approach where you play the whole phrase and then you zoom in on different parts. So, and when you zoom in, you really want to zoom in on the hard parts. So, and all the parts that are already kind of easy or okay to play, at least compared to the hard parts, they'll get their practice just by you going through in the big picture mode, so to speak. Okay, so we found this phrase, and now we can take that phrase and move it around on the fretboard. Well, at first we can just try to see if we can make a loop out of it. So we use the looping tool. So we have a very convenient loop here actually, because we have an even number of notes. So even though the original phrase is in triplet, we don't care about that right now. We just convert this to 16th notes or 8 notes, whatever you want to do. But in this case, I'll just do it in 16th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can use, well, like I said, the looping tool. So we start, this is the first loop. Second, start on the right pick stroke. Next. Next one. So I would take a pattern like this and just move it around on the same string group or change string group, and even though if I change to this string group, I would get a total different interval structure. I don't care about that, because now it's a purely technical thing to get used to. And so I move it around like that just to get some variation and get a different feel for different part of the get a feel for a different part of the neck as well. So and also remember this pattern. You can go through the accents, you know, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so and anything you can think of, and the rhythmic variation as well, which is in actually a later video, but there's no real order to these videos anyway. But you can check out the rhythmic variation video where you take in this case a 4-note group, and we just apply triplets to it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So you see that rhythmic variation video for more thorough explanation of that. But you get the idea. So you just take this problem area, write it down if you need to, so you know what to work on. And whenever you have some time over, you just take this pattern and work on it for 5-10 minutes. And that's a really efficient use of your practice time. But when you do this beat to beat thing, you find the problem area and you try out some of the different tools, and if it helps and you can play it at the 80% speed, that's great. You can move on, and you might not even need to practice it more. But if not, just notate it and keep going back to it for a few days, and you'll see that it really gets better quickly. But what you want to do is keep going through the rest of the phrase, because it might be a few more patterns in here that might be even harder for you. So maybe you'll get 3 or 4 different phrases like this that you need to work on. So, another thing, you can use speed bursts here as well. So shut off the metronome and do it. Oops, long pick stroke. So that's a good thing to try out as well. It's usually the first thing I try out. If I find something that's hard, I break it down to just 2 notes, 3, 4, or however many notes there are in the beat to beat thing. And that helps a lot in most cases. But if it's a real tough one, I just do like I said, that I notate it and keep going back to it for like 5-10 minutes at a time for a few days, and usually it gets a lot better pretty quickly. Okay, but so just keep going through the phrase. So we're at fourth one, so we start on the next here. So again, I start from the beginning, so I know that I'm on the right finger and right pick stroke. So it's here. And again, this is with the metronome at 80%. And if that feels cool, next one. Let's see. So next one. And so on. So you go through the entire phrase like this. So, and you stop when you get to the last note of the phrase. You don't like this. So it would be, this would be the last one. So this is super helpful to finding the technical glitches in whatever you're working on. So highly recommended. And again, try it out and combine it with everything else. But most importantly, find whatever's not working for you technically here, and make that a part of your small practice routines that you can do during the coming days or sometimes weeks if it's really hard. But usually it's just a matter of days before if you apply all the different techniques we talked about. And since it's such a small thing such a small amount of notes that we're practicing, it usually improves much quicker than the usual when the regular way of practicing, where you're just playing endless scale patterns and never really addressing the specific problems you might have. So hope that works as well for you as for me. So, and see you in the next video. Okay, so tool number 9, rhythmic variation. And you could probably figure this out from the name alone. What this is about is to change the rhythm of whatever you're working on. So if we take this Bach example again, which was in triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So 3 notes per beat. Try playing that with 2 notes per beat instead. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So as you can hear, it sounds different and it feels different to play, and you get the accents in different places naturally, and that really helps you to again synchronize your hands, and it gives your mind a new angle to look at the same thing that you're working on. So, and that's always good, because the more angles you can see some problem from, the better and faster you'll come to a good solution. So, and also it's like all the other tools, you have to slow down and really think about what you're doing to play it correctly. And for us guitar players, that's a problem. So we really want to go fast, as I said in another video. So but what I would suggest is that whenever you have something in triplets, do it in 8 notes or 16ths, and vice versa. So if you have something that's written in 16ths or 8 notes, do it in triplets, because that's sort of opposing fields. So you get the most out of that. But you can also go through, take this piece again, and go through each subdivision from 1 to 8, for example. So 8 would be 32nd notes. So 1 would be quarter notes. So and so on. And 8 notes we already did. And triplets, that's the original. And 16th would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Five would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 7. And finally 8. So I mean, you could go on, but that's the idea. So you don't have to play them one after another like I did here. I mean, you could work on 5 for a while if you're not used to that, and whichever one that gives you trouble, try working on that one. So, and again, when I use all these tools, I do it pretty organically. So I move between. I don't really think about it that much because I'm so used to them. So, but when you're starting out and just learning these, it's a good idea to try each of them out on whatever you're working on. So you'll find your favorites and which work best together in your opinion, and you know, it's make it your own. So, but I guess, as you know, that I don't necessarily I don't go through this in the ordered list like 1 through 10 like it's ordered here. So that ordering is just the way it happens, so it doesn't really matter. So back to the rhythmic variation thing. So besides doing that, another thing to do with rhythmic variations is to take a phrase, like if you have a loop, for example. Let's say you find something you have a problem with. Well, let's take the thing we found out in the beat to beat video. This one. It's from the same piece. So we have this loop, and we're playing it in 16ths now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we can do, if we play this in triplets instead, the accent will move around. So we'll have, I'll just count and play an accent a bit louder than usual. So you'll see how the accent moves. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So the accent moves from note to note. So if I, a bit higher tempo. And this can be really confusing at first when you're not used to it. So, but that's the point. You have to focus. So, an easier example might be to, if we just take 4 notes here, you know, that chromatic thing, and 4 notes, and then we'll play the triplets here, and you'll see that the accent will move from 1 here, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then back to that one. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Like that. And the other way around, if you have something with 3 notes, if we just play 7, 9, 10. And so just a regular El Di Meola type triplet thing. And we try doing that in 16ths instead. Then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So like this. So that's a really good way to practice 3-note per string stuff, and of course problem areas that you find in your whatever you're learning, you know. But the basic idea is to play a subdivision that's sort of counterintuitive to whatever it's written in, so the accent starts moving around. So experiment with this, and there's a ton of things you can do with it, but again, really slow down the tempo and use a metronome for this, and count out loud at first if you're unsure of the rhythm. So hope that helps, and see you in the next video. Okay, so practice tool number 10, visualization. This is a very good tool to use on any level of playing, actually. So and the sooner you start using this, the better, because it will help you to connect your ear to the instrument. So you're improvising and you're learning, and everything will get better the more you practice this. And it's a good habit to get into whenever you have downtime, you know, sitting on the train or a bus or a plane or whatever. You can work on music. And they actually found in several studies that the mind cannot really distinguish between doing something for real and only imagining or visualizing. So, and you probably heard of the test where you can, if you think about biting into a big juicy lemon, that your mouth might start watering, and that's, you know, that's a sort of a clear way to illustrate that point. And the way to do this is to just start where you're at, basically. So let's take this Bach thing as an example again. If you can imagine that whole section with the sound that you want and everything, and you can imagine your way how it feels to play it, and as much as possible get into detail of, you know, the sound and everything, that's great. Just keep on going. But if you have problems with that, just start with maybe the first 3 or 4 notes. So try to hear that in your mind. Okay, and it doesn't matter when you're away from the instrument. It doesn't matter if you imagine something in the right key. What matters is that you have the right intervals. So you can just as well imagine this in. Doesn't matter as long as you keep imagining in the same key as you started in, of course. But so you don't have to have perfect pitch or anything like that. And you can even try out the different practice tools just in your mind. Just think about, if you get to the point where you can hear, try to imagine maybe the accent thing. And just different mental challenges like that. And it's like meditation. The more you do it, the more control you get over your mind. And it's super important, because it will lead you to being able to improvise in your mind and see what you're playing. And you can, of course, apply that when you get to the guitar. So it's a really cool thing. And like I said, it's no mumbo jumbo. They have several studies on this. Even in music, they've tried it with. They had a group of amateur piano players, or if they, I don't remember if they, maybe even they weren't playing anything, but they just gave them some scale pattern like this to practice, and they had a set practice routine, and they had different groups, and the group that visualized and practiced for real had the best results, but the group that only visualized wasn't that far behind. So they actually measured the amount of activity in the brain as well, in that section where motor skills are stored. So it's It's a really cool thing. And like I said, ideally you'll be able to imagine the music as you want to hear it, because then you have a model when you go to sit down and actually practice the piece for real. And that really helps, because if you don't have that model in your mind, it's sort of like you know it when you hear it kind of practicing, which is fine. You have to start somewhere, but the stronger mental view you have of what you want to achieve, the easier it will be to do it. So sort of like a painter or sculptor, if they can see what they want to do, it's much easier to get that result. So another example is Glenn Gould, a super genius piano player. He read an interview where he said his teacher taught him how to practice mentally. So he learned, he's played a lot, one of the world's foremost Bach piano players, and he used to practice the well-tempered clavier pieces and the Goldberg variations, and really intricate stuff with fugues and several voices moving in counterpoint. So if he could imagine that in his head and play as well as he did, we sure can work on single note lines at least. So the more you do it, the better you will get at it, and I can't recommend it enough. So try it out and good luck. Okay, so here's some bonus tools. The first one is, as you might suspect, about practicing on an acoustic guitar. So, and if you're mainly an acoustic guitar player, you already do this, so you might skip it. So skip this advice. But for us who mainly play electric guitar, it's really helpful to work on whatever we have problems with on an acoustic guitar. So if you find some specific thing that you have a problem with, take that pattern or exercise or whatever and practice on an acoustic, and it forces you to slow down, and you really can, you have nothing in between you and the music, so to speak, because it comes directly from the instrument, so you really have to focus on being accurate. So no distortion to help you, and no compression from any amp or anything like that, and also thicker strings and all that stuff. So and it's really helpful for legato and things like that. So that's the first bonus tip. And again, it's don't chase the final tempo on this guitar, on the acoustic guitar. Instead, use it as a sort of like don't want to say weight training, because I don't think it's about the physical aspect that much, but just think about it to be more accurate. And because playing legato on a acoustic guitar, it's actually more about being more accurate than necessarily having to use more force. So I'm still relaxed here. So, and the same thing with picking, so, and sweeping and all that stuff. So that's highly recommended. And tip number 2 is to practice hands separate if you have some real problems with something, just to see what's going on. So let's say you have problems with the thing we looked at in the speed burst video, this one here. Try to make sure that you can play it hand separate, and not necessarily with legato like this with the left hand, but you can do something like this. That you dampen here, because if you don't, it sounds like crap. So, and try to. So it's more of a rhythmic thing here. So you don't have to get a super strong tone. I mean, you can work on that as well, but since we're simulating playing with both hands here, so you don't have to push down that hard, but you want to make sure that you can hear the rhythm of the left hand. So like that. So, and you can use all other tools as well here. So maybe work with the accents. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1, and so on. And even speed bursts you can do, like. And things like that. So you can try all the other tools out on just one hand. And the same thing with the right hand. You analyze what you need to do. So here it's 3 notes per string. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So you have down up down up down up down up down. So, and the original phrase that we looked at before was in 16th notes. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1. And like I mentioned in the planting video, you can. This is a good thing to use the planting. So since you don't have to worry about getting ahead with the right hand and getting out of sync. So, and when working on that, you can just hold down whatever you want in this area, so you get the same tension. So maybe like. Like in the planting video, really try to get each note as short as possible. So, and another thing you can do with the right hand, if you find that you have problems with a certain pattern, in this case we had 3 notes per string, you can come up with other exercises that uses the same amount of notes per string. So you use the same picking pattern, but you might not use the same left hand pattern, just to get some variation when you practice. So that's tip number 2, to separate both hands. And yeah, again, you can use everything that you used for the left hand as well. So you can use the accenting and speed burst, anything really. So that's tip number 2. And tip number 3 is to record yourself while practicing, either audio only, but it's even better if you can do video as well. And just your phone is good enough, and it's probably the most practical, because you can just record yourself, shut it off, and look at it right away. So, and what do you record? Well, anything you want really, but if you're sitting around and practicing something specific, let's say speed bursts, if you record yourself, you probably will be kind of surprised how different you sound and look compared to how you think you sound and look. So it's a good way to at least make sure that you're on the right track when you record yourself as well. Especially you can find timing issues, and maybe you're sloppy, you don't even think you are sloppy, because we use so much, especially when we're learning, we use so much brain power just to get our hands to do what we want. So it can it can be hard to keep focus on what the actual sound is, but that's also a practice thing. So the more you record yourself, the more you can build up that awareness even while not recording yourself. So, but it can be shocking at first, so be prepared and don't get depressed. So that's tip number 3. So yeah, just a little bonus. So hope you enjoy this and good luck.